Today I'm going to talk about how I personally use diet to control my autoimmune diseases. I have two autoimmune diseases, which are celiac disease and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And I've talked about in some other videos, like my whole story of how I came into eating paleo and all of these other things, which you can go back and watch if you'd like. But I want to talk kind of like my strategy these days of how I control diet, or how I control my autoimmune disease with diet. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background so you understand. So I had originally been kind of slightly like 80-20 paleo for a long time, mainly for my son, but I noticed I felt better. But I was still eating gluten a lot. I was having pizza and beer and all of these things, several times, like a week probably. And so I was not feeling my best. Things started to get worse. And then eventually I got diagnosed with my Hashimoto's and celiac disease. That really made me understand that the gluten that I was eating every so often, like a couple times a week, was causing me huge issues. So I removed all gluten from my diet completely. And I immediately went on to Autoimmune Paleo, or AIP diet. And I did that for a year and really healed my gut, got everything really back to where it should have been. And I started feeling better then than I had done like when I was like 37, 38 at that point in time than I had felt when I was 25. And then after I did Autoimmune Paleo, I moved back into a paleo style diet where I was eating pretty much just strict paleo, no gluten, none of those things. And at that point, I don't even think I was eating very many grains. And then eventually I started reintroducing some gluten-free grains in my diet. I would go on vacation. Every time I went on vacation, I would solely eat gluten-free, but not paleo at all. It would be dairy, corn, all of these other things were back in my diet while on vacation. And then I would start to feel a little bit worse. I would start to have maybe some small flares of my Hashimoto's. So I would do something like a Whole30, which would help me really get back into it. There were a few occasions where I got gluten, and then I would do Autoimmune Paleo for a month, but not really go through the whole reintroduction thing, just kind of doing the healing portion of Autoimmune Paleo, just to try to get back on track. And then last year I kind of fell off the bandwagon completely because I stopped eating paleo and I was eating mainly like gluten-free, a lot of corn, a lot of dairy, and a lot of just issues with my dog and all this kind of stuff. And you can go back and watch my story if you want to understand that. But that really caused the worst Hashimoto's flare I've had yet. And so then I tried doing a Whole30 to kind of tamp that down, but it only got me halfway there. So then I did Autoimmune Paleo for a few months and that got me completely there. So now I'm eating 99% paleo with a little bit of, like, I had oatmeal the other day just to see if there were any reactions or anything like that. And then I have chickpeas maybe 1 to 2 times a month. But for the most part, I would say I am paleo, like completely right now. Because paleo for me is where I find I feel my best. And so that's why my blog is thriving on paleo. I do a lot of paleo recipes, all of these things, because really, I'm not doing paleo because it's trendy or because I can only eat this certain amount of food or, any of these weight loss things, and none of that. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I have discovered after years of experimentation that the paleo diet seems to be where I feel my best. So in terms of managing my autoimmune disease, I stay paleo for that reason because I do notice I suffer hardly any symptoms when I maintain a pretty strict paleo diet. However, when I do go on vacations and stuff, I'm probably going to be a little bit more relaxed, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm going to stick completely away from dairy and corn from now on. I'm going to try to stay away from them because I know that they really seem to cause me the most issues. And so I'm going to do, if I go on vacations and stuff, which is going to be really hard because I'm going to Mexico next. Land of dairy and corn, right? But I'm going to try to stay away from those. So it's going to be paleo until vacation, and then vacation comes, I'm going to relax a little bit more, and then every so often I'm going to allow things like oatmeal on a 10-degree morning, or chickpeas and some hummus, or some like falafel kind of things, or something like that. I'm not trying to live under some rigid standard. I really like to be able to experiment and see what I can have, and maybe just on a very small tolerant level, like I can have it once a month. I like to see, I like to push those boundaries because I don't want to have to live in a box just because. And then when I do have flare-up of symptoms, I usually start with doing a Whole30, just because a Whole30 for me really means taking out the sugar. And I've found that most of my flare-up of symptoms, especially adrenal fatigue kind of symptoms where I start getting tired around like 3 p.m. If I tend to get a sore throat, and then I get like irritable, and just things like that tend to be more because of sugar than anything else for me. So Whole30 really kind of cleans that up because there is no sugar allowed in it. And so I like doing that to find out if it is sugar or not. If it is the sugar, usually doing a Whole30, and sometimes I don't even have to do it for 30 days. I mean, it's a Whole30 style, like the template, but not necessarily has to be 30 days. Maybe it's only 10 days. Maybe it is 30, maybe it's 40, seems to help. So the Whole30 helps with that. But if, like last time, I still feel some symptoms like heart palpitations or losing my hair or these other kind of thyroid symptoms after doing a Whole30, then I think it's time to go on to Autoimmune Paleo. And the reason I love Autoimmune Paleo is because it's really, really great at healing your gut, calming the inflammation, calming your immune system, and making sure that like your body is no longer attacking your tissue and all of these other things, and taking out all of the foods that could be potentially problematic. So I view it as kind of like a reset, because maybe I have gone a little too far into eating some of these grains or things that are causing me to have leaky gut. And then if I can heal that leaky gut, then I can feel better and not necessarily have the symptoms anymore. And then I start to reintroduce the foods back to see if there are anything that causes me issues. And if there are, I take it out for a while. And if there aren't, then it's back in my diet again. And last time when I went through AIP this summer, it was a very quick kind of thing. I did 6 weeks of the elimination portion and then several weeks of the reintroduction. I kind of messed up the reintroductions at the very end just because of vacations and stuff, but I feel great, so I don't necessarily feel like I have to go back right now. But if I didn't feel great at the end, then I would go back and go to the elimination portion and reintroduce the foods and find out exactly why I wasn't feeling great. But so this is essentially my system now. It's paleo for the most part, with every so often some things that aren't considered to be paleo, just to expand my diet and not necessarily feel like I have to be stuck in a box or restricted. And then if I have flare-up of symptoms of any sort, then I will go to a Whole30. And then if it still feels like I need some cleanup after that, I will do Autoimmune Paleo. And if I was to ever get gluten, which I really hope never happens again because it's so not fun and it hurts so badly, I would probably do Autoimmune Paleo for a couple of weeks, just to really kind of heal that. But I'm hoping that doesn't happen again. It's inevitable. It will happen again, but at least I have the tools ready to go with that. And I do want to note that one of the reasons I did this video today is because last week my kids were home for school, and I tend to eat a lot more vegetables when I'm home by myself during the day. Like I roast up huge plates or trays of veggies typically, and then I make my bowls. I love making bowls of vegetables, and then I add some leftover meats or something to it to complete it for my lunches. And last week with my kids being home, we kind of ate more kid food, like chicken nuggets and things like, that don't necessarily have a lot of vegetables. And after a few days of this, I really noticed I started to feel really tired and just bleh. I think in an Instagram, I felt like doo-doo. And I've noticed it's because I hadn't had the vegetables. And so while I say I do paleo diet, I want to make sure that I am emphasizing that I eat a lot of vegetables on paleo diet. It's a nutrient dense version of the diet. It's not, you can make any diet a junk food diet, but it's not a junk food version of paleo. I eat tons of vegetables, and I also eat some meats and seeds and fats and things like that. But with autoimmune disease, your body needs a ton of nutrients. And if you don't get those, then you're gonna start feeling ramifications. And so my version of paleo is mainly like usually a big bowl or plate of vegetables with some meat and some nuts and seeds and fats. So I just wanted to make that clear so that you don't think that I'm eating huge portions of meat, or I'm not doing keto or anything like that. I'm just, I tend to eat a lot of vegetables with some meats. And I'm really trying to stay away from the sugars because, like I said, sugars seem to be one of the triggers that cause my adrenal fatigue symptoms. And I mean, sugar's not good for anyone, but I've always had a sweet tooth, and I'm really consciously right now trying to avoid it as much as possible, just so that I can maintain my health. So that's my version of paleo. So lots of vegetables, some meat, nuts, some seeds, fats, and low sugar. And that's it. I just wanted to explain like how I kind of bounce back and forth between the paleo diet and the subsets, just to maintain my health, deal with flares, and really just kind of, use the different tools within the toolbox of paleo to maintain my health and feel my best. It may look different for you if you do it, but I think it's helpful to see how some other people do it, and I mean, that's how I do it. So I just wanted to let you know. And again, if you haven't gotten access to my paleo freebie library, the link will be below to get the password for that. And make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. I will see you guys on Friday.